Let me explain. Sony and Marvel are apparently, nothing confirmed, but apparently in discussions as to what they're going to do in regards to the future of Spider-Man. Now, Spider-Man is partly owned by Sony, which is unavoidable. They've owned part of him for a very long time, which is why Sony had dibs on making Spider-Man movies. Now, the reason The Amazing Spider-Man, the reboot franchise, came out as quick as it did was because if Sony didn't make a movie within a certain amount of years, Marvel would get the movie rights to Spider-Man. So that's why Spider-Man 3 was 2007, and then as early as 2012, Amazing Spider-Man came out. Now, let's put aside the quality of the films for a moment. I think we all would be happy if Spider-Man could be part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I mean, let's face it, back in 2007, Spider-Man 3, we had no idea how big, from the next year onwards, these Marvel characters like Iron Man and Hulk and Captain America and Thor were going to get to a mainstream audience. So, it was a pleasant surprise when all that started to work out. Now, I really love Iron Man and Incredible Hulk and Iron Man 2 and Thor and Captain America the First Avenger and Avengers Assemble and Iron Man 3 and Thor the Dark World and Captain America the Winter Soldier and Guardians of the Galaxy. I love these movies, and I would love for my boy Spidey, because Spidey is my boy. Spidey is the hero that I've followed in comic books my entire life. Him and Dennis the Menace. Spidey's my boy. I would love if Spidey could come out to play with these guys. X-Men, too many characters. I'm fine with Fox having X-Men and it not being a thing with Marvel. I'm fine with that. There's too many of them. If they can borrow, like, Wolverine for an Avengers movie, great, but it's never going to happen, but that's fine. Avengers is its own... X-Men is its own Avengers in terms of the size of the cast and the world. I just wish they'd realised that in terms of using more than the same villain. As much as I love Ian McKellen, but I'm sidetracking. Spidey should be part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. As should the Fantastic Four, but we'll see how the reboot goes. I'm kind of about that. So the fact that they're negotiating now on how to possibly integrate Spidey into the Avengers world should be news that's exciting to me, but it isn't, and I'll tell you why. Going back to, take it off the shelf, the quality of the Spider-Man films. I love Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. I don't love Spider-Man 2 as much as other people do, but I agree technically and visually in that it is the best of those three, but I kind of prefer the first one. I don't know why. They commit a giant crime by putting Willem Dafoe's very expressive, very frightening face under a Power Ranger mask for the whole movie. But I will agree that in those movies, Tobey Maguire makes a great Peter Parker, not so great Spider-Man. Spider-Man 3 is awful, but fun, but awful. Amazing Spider-Man, I had no expectations, I wasn't excited, I was kind of worried at the time because Spidey's my boy, and that's my top three. Number 1, Spidey, number 2, Batman, number 3, Superman. Those are my top three, with Thor at a close fourth. I was really upset that they were making a reboot so soon, and I didn't care, and I watched the trailers and went, oh god, they're pandering to the wrong audience here, what is this, blah, 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 blah. When I saw it, I was pleasantly surprised. The Amazing Spider-Man is not a perfect superhero movie, far from it, but it is a nice telling that is sort of based on, I was going to pull them out, but there's an action figure in the way, sort of more based, if Sam Raimi's Spider-Man is based on the 1963 Spider-Man comic, Amazing Spider-Man, the Amazing Spider-Man movie is based on Ultimate Spider-Man. It's not as good as Ultimate Spider-Man, and I'm not referring to the cartoon, which I really don't like, but it's as good, you know, like it's coming from that kind of adaptation style. Amazing Spider-Man 2, while a very, very flawed film, on first viewing in the cinema awoke my inner 5-year-old, and I really enjoyed seeing the visuals. I enjoyed seeing one of my favourite villains, Electro, on the screen. I enjoyed the take on the Green Goblin, even though it was unnecessarily rushed. Here's the thing, Amazing Spider-Man 2, how I feel inside, I enjoy it. How I feel up here, like in my brain, I know it's terrible. Just to get that out there. But yeah, because and like Tobey Maguire was a great Peter Parker but terrible Spider-Man, I think Andrew Garfield is a fantastic Spider-Man, like brilliant. He's an amazing Spider-Man. Wink. But his Peter Parker is not Peter Parker, and that's not down to him. That's down to the writing and the direction of the films and everything, the style. But that's not Peter Parker. That's Spider-Man without his costume on. I could get into this another time. Point is, I don't think that version of Spider-Man is spot on enough to be part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, obviously, it's up for interpretation, and people could enjoy whichever version they like. But hear me out. Iron Man is not directly faithful to the Iron Man comic, but it gets it. It understands it, and it incorporates elements of it into the movie. Same with Iron Man 2. Same with Iron Man 3 to an extent. Iron Man 3 is sort of the first one that pretty much adapts a story but deviates from it. Blah, blah, blah. Captain America gets it. Thor had that slight light approach where it's like, we don't want to say it's gods and monsters, we will say that they're from another planet. But then, of course, since Avengers, that's all out the window. They don't care about trying to make it realistic anymore. We've had Guardians of the Galaxy, which is brilliant, which I also love. But Thor gets it, apart from the slight variation in the mythology. It gets the tone and it gets it right, and so does Captain America. Incredible Hulk, really good film, I enjoy it, but the best version of Hulk is in Avengers. Avengers gets it. It's just a big celebration of this world and these characters. Love it! I don't think The Amazing Spider-Man is Spider-Man. It's... Put it this way, I would only be happy for Spider-Man to join the Avengers Cinematic Universe if Marvel made that movie. If Marvel made that Spider-Man movie. If they did a Spidey film and then he was brought into the melee. Now it's possible, and this would be brilliant. I would love this to happen. It'd be possible for Marvel to work with Sony, Disney to work with Sony on the next Spidey film, so that it's closer to their vision of Spidey. So it sort of softly segues him into that world in terms of his tone, so that when he shows up in Avengers 3 or Captain America 3 or Doctor Strange or whatever, it's like, okay, this Spidey's part of this world, we get it. And you can then enjoy Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2 as their own thing. But then, do you know what I mean? I mean, it might even be down to a recast even. I know Garfield said he doesn't want to do it beyond, I think he said he's going to briefly be in either Venom or the Sinister Six. I just don't know how I feel about those. And then he'll be in Amazing Spider-Man 3, and that's it. Well, recast Spidey then, after Amazing Spider-Man 3, and have that Spider-Man first appear in the Avengers universe. There's enough of a tonal shift. Do you know what I mean? This isn't the first time they've tried to make these two franchises join up as well, because they tried to have the Oscorp building and the skyline of Avengers. They were working out a deal at that point, but for whatever reason it wasn't sorted before the final visual effects had to be handed in for the Avengers, and they were just like, sorry, we're going to have to go ahead without you, Sony. So yeah, they're always making attempts, and let's face it, it wouldn't damage Sony's franchise if they lent the character to Disney, because they could be like, right, okay, you can have Spider-Man in Avengers 3, but we know he's a big character, so if you have him in that movie, we want 5% of the overall gross. Doesn't sound like a lot, but think about it. Avengers, $3 billion earnings. It's going to be a lot of money for Sony. And Disney have every right to say no to that, but let's face it, they'd make more... you know what I mean? The gradual earning would be higher because this character's in the movie, so Sony would take a very nice slice of that cake, and Marvel would get to enjoy a slightly bigger cake than they normally have, just minus the one slice. But do you know what I mean? It's... I don't want that Spider-Man to be in the cinematic universe, unless they did sort of a recast and a tone shift or whatever. But what about you? That's what I want to know. This is news that obviously got me a bit passionate. How about you? Do you feel that the Amazing Spider-Man, this fella, should be in the third Avengers movie? Or do you think these guys should be left to deal with business on their own, as they have been doing incredibly well without this guy? Let me know your thoughts down below. Fanboy dream, it happens and it's brilliant, but realistically we know that the tones are going to clash. So tell me down below in the comments, do you think that Sony Spider-Man should become part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and why? I'll see you next time, guys. I'm not going to do that awkward thing where I walk to the camera and hit record, because I don't want to bother editing the ending. Good day! Ooh.